Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm John. This episode and every future episode is dedicated to the horror hounds and smokers out there who want to expand their knowledge of the genre and have a good time.
Today we're reviewing Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022, now streaming on Netflix. We're going to discuss the good, the bad, and the in-between. Or more fittingly, the meat, the bone, and the gristle. We're also going to break down the timeline to make this shit understandable to the uninitiated and the initiated, because it's a goddamn mess.
Glad you're doing it, not me.
Plus, John brought some good shit to smoke. All that and more today on High on Horror. Interviews, reviews, and the latest news all rolled into one.
Alright, before we get started here, I got some more of that chocolate from last time.
Damn, you bought a lot of that shit. How much of that shit did you get?
I got a quarter, but I've been saving it. This shit's fucking 25 or I think it's like close to 26% THC.
Bro, I'm to you listeners out there, no fronting here. I think that's the longest I've ever seen my man here stretch a quarter. Jeez, holy shit! I'm proud of you. That's some serious fucking discipline.
And there's some keef on top.
Nice.
But like I told you, like I bought a bunch of these Ace and I would forget about it, and then I was going to throw out containers and I'd hear little nugs rattling in there.
All right, man, we'll spark that shit up. Let's get into talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022, and here we are talking about another horror movie, Halloween, Scream, fucking what else? You have to say the year, because otherwise people are going to ask, well, which Halloween are you talking about? Which Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Which Scream?
Yeah, and speaking of which, yeah, let's get into the timeline real quick. So there are 4 timelines. There are officially 4 timelines in the Texas Chainsaw universe. The first timeline would be the most basic, which would be the original, then Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, then Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, and then that abomination, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Next Generation. So the original 4, that's the one timeline. That's, all in chronological order. The next timeline would be the remake timeline that was started with the 2003 Platinum Dunes remake, which was phenomenal. But there was a prequel to that came out a few years later called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. So this timeline starts with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, followed by the remake in 2003 starring Jessica Biel. The next timeline, the third timeline, here we go, Jesus. This would be, I guess, called the reboot timeline, and that would start with that just horrible film Leatherface that was just atrocious. Hopefully, if you haven't seen it, you won't, and hopefully, if you did see it, you've forgotten it. So this timeline starts with Leatherface, and that is a prequel to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That is then followed up by Texas Chainsaw 3D. So that timeline is just makeshift as a motherfucker. And then the new timeline, which would be called the Legacy timeline, would be the original and now the new one from 2022.
All right, so that brings us up to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. And actually, after the release of Leatherface in 2017, Lionsgate had planned for 5 more films in the franchise. I don't know why we would have needed 5 more. But the studio lost their rights due to the time it took to release it. Legendary acquired the franchise's rights with Fede Alvarez and Rado Sayagis. I'm sure I'm butchering that terribly. They were serving as producers alongside Pat Cassidy, Ian Henkel, and Kim Henkel, who co-wrote the original film. And the duo filmmakers Ryan and Andy Tohill were initially signed on as directors, but they were replaced with Garcia due to creative differences. And filming took place in Bulgaria in August of 2020. The plot for this one is a pretty simple one. You got a bunch of Gen Zers out there trying to gentrify Texas and bring all their friends out there. And actually, I wrote this down in my notes because I thought of Hellraiser when I said Hellraiser was the story of what the lengths that one woman will go for the best sex she ever had. I said this one is the story of what lengths one man will go to stop gentrification in his town.
That's a very good way of putting it. I really dig how all these years later they got the original narrator from the first film,
Yeah, that was a nice touch.
John LaRoquette. He's been an actor for forever. One of his first gigs in the business was actually this voice, his narration in the original 1974 film. But he's had a long career as an actor. He's a comedian, and he was in Parks and Rec. Actually, you'd love that show. My wife loves that show.
I'm going to ask you, most people disagree, but side tangent real quick. Parks and Rec or The Office?
I mean, I know this is like a big debate for some people, but I don't know why. I go Office hands down.
I'd say maybe The Office had some better episodes, but Parks and Recs, God damn it, Parks and Rec didn't have any bad seasons. Where I feel like after Michael Scott left, I feel like The Office just became a slow decline.
That's a very fair assessment. However,
But some of The Office might have some of the better episodes overall.
well, I'm not even going to go episodes. I'm just going off of like memory and watching and enjoyability. I can tell you personally that I had a lot more laugh out loud moments watching The Office than I did Parks and Rec. So
That's fair.
That's how I would.
But I
break it
love
down.
Ron Swanson.
Yeah, I mean you're not wrong. I guess Parks and Rec would be considered the more consistent show. You know what I mean?
Most people I know have
it's kind
said
of
The
like,
Office.
It's kind of like comparing Dexter and The Shield. Like the highs of Dexter were never reached on The Shield, but The Shield was solid as a brick wall the entire fucking time. So how do you judge that? On the highs or on the like solidarity of it? You know what I mean? So that's that's a tough one.
All right, so getting back to Texas.
Back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I have to say, I would like to talk to Fetty to ask him if he did this on purpose, but all the Gen Z kids are fucking annoying little shits. And in our horror fantasies, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to see so many of these people killed.
Yeah, I feel like this movie was a social commentary for like old school horror fans and just old school horror in general being brought into now and just basically just saying like fuck you, like absolutely. There was a real social commentary there. I saw some people mentioning social commentaries online and I didn't see the movie at the time, but once we watched it I knew right away, oh, there's one.
Yeah, because they end up having a meeting in the town for like all the people they're trying to bring to Harlow. And it looks like the meeting in the town looks like a gathering at Starbucks, pretty much.
Well, that's very true. And so these kids show up to town and they basically they just stir shit up like the moment that they get into town.
Yeah, this lady Jenny is at the orphanage, and there's still this kid that she's taking care of, but it's not really a kid. Anybody that knows anything immediately knows it's Leatherface. But they kick her out of the house because apparently they said that they had the deed to the house, and she said she had fixed it with the banks. And then when the cops are escorting her out of town, she ends up dying because she's already on oxygen from the start. And Leatherface loses his shit. And I gotta say, that first kill in the back of the ambulance, I guess we're already getting into spoilers here, but that's your fault for listening. No, that might be my favorite kill. When he busted the dude's wrist, had his bones out, and then jabbed him in the neck with it.
Stabbed him twice, and then used his gun in his hand to shoot the fucking driver through the throat and jaw. That was brutal. But yeah, like you said, the Harlow orphanage, because like Leatherface now resides in Harlow, Texas. Like you said, he was the kid that never left. It's like she took care of him and she said he was her last kid. Obviously, he never left. He has a real he's a stage 5 clinger, apparently, Yeah, when Mrs. MC, when she dies in the back of the ambulance and, she says to Leatherface, stay out of my room, you just knew that meant something, and it was just, why would you say stay out of my room? And
with your last words,
you knew that some shit was going to go down and that there was a reasoning for that, and there definitely was. But to backtrack a little bit, I did want to say that I really dug the homage to the original film with how Leatherface posed the corpse of Mrs. MC, like you see her corpse posed in the field a ways after she's like a while after she's dead. It's not in the beginning of the film, but the scene is a homage to the beginning of the original film, is what I'm saying, and it's where Leatherface is back to posing corpses like he did in the original film. He poses Mrs. MC in a in a field, and kind of like a memorial for her. And I just thought it was the way that Michael Myers posed bodies again in 2018 Halloween that I like that they brought that back.
Yeah. Speaking of 2018, we basically got Laurie Strode 2.0 now.
No, it's like 1.7.
Obviously, unfortunately, Marilyn Burns could not be back to reprise her role. It was Irish actress Olwen Fury?
Fury, I'm guessing. Maybe,
I mean, again, we're terrible at names. But I mean, it felt like she was almost kind of a clone of Laurie from 2018.
I agree. She was, I gotta say that I was underwhelmed. Not at the acting, but just like what they did with the character. I was a little underwhelmed. It was definitely like a Laurie. They made her a ranger, like she'd apparently been searching for Leatherface ever since the incident for like 40 years, they said, and she became a ranger.
50.
Well, I thought the dude said 30 or 40 years, and then she said 50, so
well,
yeah.
The other thing, like, tell me she almost didn't take not accusing the actress of stealing the quote, but like it was almost directly from Halloween 2018. She says, I waited like basically 50 years for this night. And I'm like, damn, it sounds like something exactly Laurie Strode would have said in 2018.
Yeah, and she's just a total hard ass, just like, Laurie was.
Wearing tank tops.
Wearing tank tops and just being hard as hell. But unlike Laurie, she's not a recluse, who is like shacked up with all her armor. She brings her shit in a duffel bag in the back of her car, in the back of her
She had that Rick Grimes duffel bag.
Yeah, and she just, she comes ready to take care of business. And like I said, I guess we'll get into a little later about why I was a little underwhelmed by by this performance. But yeah, I do feel that it was a clone of Laurie, and that's part of it. But can we talk for a second? Why was Leatherface played by Jack Black? No, I'm just kidding. He was played by Mark Burnham, who was actually on a Buffy the Vampire Slayer a ways back.
And I was gonna say I wanted to get back to Jenny. At first, I was like, why does Melody feel responsible for her death? Like, it wasn't her fault. But then later you find out that it was fucked up. They basically killed her, but I mean, her health wasn't too good.
Like, no, it's she was literally one upset away from dying. So I mean, like, if it wasn't them, it could literally be like her dog shitting on the floor the next day or something. Like, you never know. So yeah, if you're that close to death, that one upset of just somebody saying you have to leave your house because like the deed isn't yours anymore. That upset caused her to die. Obviously, she was upset, but yeah, I mean, you got to think that she wasn't far from dying otherwise.
That's fair. And actually, one character we forgot from earlier in the movie as well was Richter. I think he might have been my favorite character.
He was, Mo Dunford.
He was not dealing with any of their bullshit.
No, I liked him from the start. He was just like, he the thing was, I liked that he didn't deal with their bullshit, but he wasn't really a dick. He just kind of literally just ignored them. He didn't give a shit about them.
Yeah, and, I mean, you had the one scene where he talked to the girl about the school shooting, and he wasn't like a dick to her.
Yeah.
But like, other than that, he wasn't dealing with any of their bullshit.
He wasn't impressed with them either, and I liked that.
But it was a rough outing for him, though.
Yeah, he yeah, it was definitely a rough outing for him. So after Leatherface, kills the police, and he's basically, that's it. He kills the police in the back of the in the truck that he's being that his mama, so to speak, Mrs. MC, the woman who took care of him. Once she's dead, the cops, they're driving. We discussed how Leatherface stabs him in the throat with his own wrist bone, and he shoots the driving cop, and basically that leads to the car crashing and Leatherface getting out of the car and skinning Mrs. MC's face and wearing it. And I gotta say that there were some cool. There was a cool homage here. There's another homage I'll get to later, but one of the homages was after this scene where he puts the mask on, he like Leatherface turns to walk away and go down the highway, and it's a direct shot of like the cover of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning. So I liked how they threw a little nod in there of another Texas Chainsaw, and I'm sure there's a lot more, but I definitely saw that one.
And we also, like, after that, we get a scene of Leatherface in the house making himself up. You think he's got, like, a deep skincare regimen? I mean, he got to keep that skin moist, my boy.
Well, I mean, that would make sense if he does, because in the original and in this one, well, I mean, the mask is relatively new in this one, obviously. He just gets it. It's his Mrs. MC's face.
He's moisturizing a lot.
But in the original film, his mask was, like, skin-colored as well, and that's kind of, in the 2003 remake, the mask was, like, gray and green and, like, withered and, like it was like all like shrinking and wrinkled looking
It's
from like
crusty.
being like dead and withered, and that was a realistic mask, and these other leather faces tend to have these like normal skin. So yeah, maybe there is a skin moisturizing technique going down.
And keeping him in business, because I mean,
keeping him in business. How often does he change a mask?
I don't know. Maybe that's why in some of them they're crusty. He's trying to get a new face.
Possibly.
But, yeah, before that, when he just bashes Richter's head in, fucking Melody's under the bed. She was at SeaWorld in the front row just getting fucking splashed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right, because Leatherface, goes home, and everybody fucking just for some reason goes back into the house. Like, he just goes back home, and everybody's still in the house. And Richter comes to save the day, and yeah, Leatherface I said this in our last episode, I used the Triple H as a reference, but Richter gets Triple H like a motherfucker. Leatherface tees off on him with a sledgehammer, and I mean, we see some good kills at this point. I mean, what was his name? I'm so terrible with names.
You talk about Dante got his jaw?
Yes, Dante, that was it. Yeah, he just got totally, like, he got slapped on the jaw with a meat cleaver. Then,
Oh, you just see his jawbone.
Yeah, and Melody gets slapped in the chest with a sledgehammer. I mean,
Yeah, that shit had me dying, though.
Mo Dumford gets his knee kicked backwards. I mean, and then the neck, glass in the neck. It's just the kills right away, up until, what was this, at the 45-minute mark, 40-minute mark? The kills and just everything was just really good. Like, the build-up was good. I liked it.
And I have to say,
I was impressed so far.
Like, I feel like the one thing they gave us that I haven't seen from really other Leatherfaces is just his skills and tricks he can pull off with the chainsaw. Like that fucking one where he just threw it and had it spin and fucking just hit her legs.
Oh, yeah, he used it to, like, sweep out her feet, yeah.
Yeah, like, I feel like we haven't seen that before.
He's more limber. He was definitely more limber in this one.
He's still a stocky motherfucker, though.
Right. Well, then all this basically leads to Leatherface getting on a tour bus because there's tourists in the town.
I mean, the tour bus, I have to imagine, is going to be everybody's favorite scene.
I mean, I think it's many people's favorite scene, and a lot of people don't like it at the same time because of the whole cell phone thing, because it's legitimately like, it's legitimately just kind of like a now movie. Like, why does there have to be cell phones in it like that?
Dude, I love that part, though. Like, I feel like that's totally what would happen when that dude was like, oh, if you try anything, you're going to be canceled, bro.
If it was set in now, I agree. I think it was kind of funny. I definitely enjoyed it. I gotta say that the music by Colin Stetson in the bus scene, that was what really stood out to me. It was a very, like, almost panic-inducing. Like, while it was fun to watch and you're watching people getting just fucking hacked up, the music is kind of like, it had this rhythm to it that really kind of made me a little like panicky, and I thought like, damn, that music's really setting the scene right now.
Yeah, that bus scene, I mean, it's gonna at least be the most memorable scene from the movie.
Right. We're assuming, because you all are listening to spoilers and you're listening to a podcast review that's gonna probably be like an hour or so long, that you've watched the movie. If not, I mean, I'm sorry to say that's kind of on you. But yeah, Leatherface is just hacking through people on this bus, and when he
with the chainsaw on, with the chainsaw off.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, so those of you who watch this, because obviously, assuming you have watched it, imagine this is what I consider the rave scene for Jason and Freddy versus Jason, when Jason's just, except it's way funny. Bloodier and way more people.
It's funny because when I was watching it, I didn't say anything, but I was thinking of that scene. But yeah, there's way more people in this one.
Yeah, and by the way, yes, the whole "stay out of my room," the line that Mrs. MC hits Leatherface with, turns out that in her wall is the chainsaw, and Leatherface obtains this chainsaw by bashing through the wall. And
He goes, oh, damn it, I just forgot his name. From The Shining, Jack Torrance. He goes all Jack Torrance on it.
And this is obviously a homage. If it wasn't a direct, if it's not a homage, it's definitely a ripoff of John's favorite film, Rob Zombie's Halloween. The way that Michael Myers obtains the mask.
We both said that. I said it felt very, yeah. Well, you said it. I was thinking of it. But yeah,
he punches it up through the floorboards in Halloween, and then this one he punches through the wall to get his chainsaw. Still kind of weak. My boy Michael Myers just murders the two people carrying his shit around in their car and just fucking murders them.
Gets in a sedan and
a dirty bathroom. Takes his mask and
he gets in a 4-door sedan and drives to Haddonfield
wearing the mask. That he just put on after he killed him in a dingy ass bathroom.
Yeah, that was a dingy ass bathroom.
So the film eventually, after countless people dying, I would like to watch the movie again and see if I could count, but there's so much on-screen death on that bus. Like, just you just see body parts, bro. Like, it's, oh my god.
And it also reminded me of Halloween 6, where he's just killing the doctors in the room.
Yeah.
Except not as much seizure-inducing flashing.
So after just countless bodies being just destroyed and just cut into pieces, it all boils down to sisters Melody and Lila, fighting it out for survival against Leatherface with the help of Sally Hardesty. And this,
are we going to say with help?
This is before we go there, I just wanted to say that this right here officially marks the point of the movie where it kind of started to go downhill. Up until the bus scene and through like midway through the bus scene, I was convinced. I don't know how you felt, John. I was like, I'm digging this, but right about here is where I started to go, oh no.
I had read reviews. I've read some good. I've read ones that are not find it very good. And up until then, I was like, I don't understand why people hate this movie. Although I've seen people say they were bored a half hour in. I don't feel that way. But yeah, shortly after the bus scene, at one point, we'll get to it, I literally just said, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, so Leatherface is taking on Melody and Lila, and Sally shows up. And Sally basically is like, hey, get in my police vehicle in the back.
She was no Laurie Strode.
No. And Melody and Lila get in the back of the car, and then instead of driving them to safety, Sally just goes, nah, I gotta finish this, and gets out of the fucking car.
Doesn't even leave him the keys.
Doesn't give him the keys, leaves him locked in, and goes to take on Leatherface. And how do you think that went? How did you imagine that was gonna go? Well, first of all, like Laurie Strode, she had a shotgun.
Yeah,
I was expecting Leatherface to get
ridiculous. I even said that out loud. I said, "Look at her; she's got a shotgun too."
And I expected Leatherface to lose 2 fingers, just saying, from the shotgun. But yeah. So this is Sally and Leatherface finally have their standoff, and it gets pretty crazy.
It was quick.
It was quick. She does some damage. Leatherface takes a couple shotgun shells, and he gets stabbed in the side with a blade.
Yeah, he swats one of the bullets away with the fucking chainsaw.
I know,
swinging it. That shit was ridiculous.
And I thought it was really cool how when he was like hiding in the alley and he turned the chainsaw off, so like she couldn't see him because it was dark, and then you just hear like, the heavy footprints of him running, and like you're, oh shit, he's coming towards you, but I can't see him, and then right as he comes into view, the chainsaw revved up again. Like I was like, there was some.
But then it was ridiculous.
I liked it.
He's just wildly swinging the chainsaw and just smacks a bullet away.
Bullets off, right? Yeah.
That's when it started going okay.
Yep, now it started. Yeah, exactly. And anyway, Leatherface gets that chainsaw through Sally's belly, and he picks her up in the air.
Lifts her up with the chainsaw.
Just sawing through her, and then he just chucks her ass off the blade a good
That's
fucking
the way you
15
should treat
feet.
your heroine from the originals. Just have her chucked by a chainsaw like 10 feet.
Exactly. And just And onto a pile of trash, nonetheless.
Yeah.
onto a pile of trash, which was just But yeah, so there goes your your hero, your big hero moment. Just nope, Sally's not going to be the one to take Leatherface down, or is she? Because once Leatherface hurts Melody, I'm sorry, but Melody and Lila, they get into a car
Melanie,
accident.
instead of leaving, ends up.
They get into a car accident. She gets stuck in the car.
Because she ends up bringing the keys back.
Yeah.
And telling them to leave. Instead of just leaving, after this, Melody decides she's going to hit Leatherface with the car.
Yeah, and
he threw the, like I said, some of the stuff he does with the chainsaw, you're like, that makes sense. He fucking just chucks the chainsaw at the windshield.
Yeah, I know, and yeah, they hit.
She clips him.
They crash, and I thought that he kind of did like a roll. I didn't know if they clipped him or not. I
thought he kind of got hit because he was like on his side.
It could have been like a hip shot or something, but yeah. So they crash because they're dumb and they ruin their chance to get away. And Melody's impaled to the seat, can't get out through her leg. So it's on Lila. Lila tries to have a hero moment and doesn't go well. Leatherface just stalks her through the streets. Probably one of my favorite scenes in the film. He's just coming at her so fucking hard, and she's trying so hard to get away from him. And she's believable, and the action and the violence that he's bringing is just like intense as fuck. And the close-up of his mask and the head tilts, it was on point, man. I was happy with it until, bam, he gets shot, and you turn and look, and it's Sally's sloppy ass laying in the pile of trash, fucking sawed in half, still somehow alive, and that's where John hits us with his...
Yeah, I just went, get the fuck out of here.
To which my wife and I both exploded with laughter because honestly there was no more proper wording for that moment. If he hadn't said it, it's what we all were thinking. It's just literally what, like, just to change.
At first, you're in your head, you're like, who was that? And then when it cut to her, I was like, nah, what?
But when we thought, who was that? Because she wasn't even a consideration.
Yeah.
You're like, she's done. You know what I mean?
I mean, he put a chainsaw through her midsection, lifted her up with it still going.
Revving through her.
For probably about another 5 to 10 seconds, and then just chucked her 5 to 6 feet off of it into a pile of garbage.
Well, it looked more like 10 feet. Like we said, I swear it was 10, 11. It was a while. He threw her across the fucking street. And
yeah. He was in the street and chucked her to the sidewalk with the garbage.
And this is my argument to that. It's like, first of all, that she should have been dead. Sally should have been dead from that. It was just unrealistic to keep her alive. And here's my argument for, if you did want to argue that, no, she could survive that, she wouldn't be dead. You would definitely have lost too much blood and be way too fucked up to be aiming guns and properly nailing targets. Like, you would be all shaking and losing blood, and like, if you could even hold the gun. And she's just toting fucking shotguns, shooting Leatherface from a pile of trash, just fucking guts hanging. Like, it's like just so ridiculous. That moment was literally that was the ride to jump the shark moment. That was like okay, something literally unredeemable that I can't ignore or look past happened.
Yeah, but then it did get a little bit better. I liked the scene of Leatherface in the house with her under the crawl space, just with the chainsaw just going through the floorboards.
No, that was a cool scene. That was a very cool scene.
But if you look at her, you could look and argue that if she would have just laid there, he would have just skimmed right past her.
Yeah, I mean, I had made the remark before that me and you'd have gotten caught, but yeah, and also that wasn't the whole floor. She could have just crawled a little further to the left, you know. So there was that, but no, and nonetheless, it made a very cool scene. There was a lot of cool visuals. I did really like the way Leatherface looked, even though he was wearing a woman's face. I mean, that's not uncommon because he wears makeup in the other films, but I didn't mind. I didn't know it was a woman's mask. I had no idea leading up to the film that it was a woman's face that he was wearing, Mrs. MC's face, but it worked well. It was very fucking creepy. I like how he starts toting the apron again. Like, it was almost as if he had closeted this part of himself when he joined this orphanage, but it was still there waiting to come out, and all it took was the death of the woman that was taking care of him.
Yeah, and then breaking through that wall, getting that chains. Why wouldn't she just get rid of it? That's a question I just thought of.
Yeah, because you might need a Rob Zombie moment in your movie.
It's true.
You might need a Rob Zombie moment in your movie. So the movie basically gets down to yeah, so Sally basically dies after that. She finally passes away, and then we're left with Melody and Lila taking on Leatherface on a 2-on-1 handicap match, and Leatherface is holding his own.
And somehow Melody got out of that car with her leg impaled.
I'm glad that was Hollywood convenience because they didn't show that for a reason. I want to know how that happened. It's easy to just show her
Because they also
be out,
crashed into to a wall, so there was really no space for her.
right, that's what I'm saying. Easy to just write her out, but that's why they couldn't show it because I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. You couldn't move. You know what I mean? But she couldn't move anyway. But so it's a 2-on-1 handicap match. Leatherface is holding his own. He comes very close to getting on both twice.
That's where we get the rolling chainsaw to the legs.
We get the rolling chainsaw legs, and we get the first ever that you've mentioned that and I agree, the first ever chainsaw uppercut.
Yeah.
Melody uppercuts Leatherface with the chainsaw, knocking him to his death, and then she and her sister Lila get in a car, and they just have too happy of a moment where you knew it wasn't over yet because you're thinking if this is how this movie ends, it's really terrible. Luckily, it's not. Right when they start to drive off and think they've gotten to safety.
Oh yeah, they have like Tesla self-driving cars.
Yep, and Leatherface just yanks Melody out of the passenger side door, just out of nowhere, and just chainsaws her head off and holds it up in the air for Lila to see. Lila, being in the back, standing up out of the sunroof of her car, staring at her sister getting beheaded, and at Leatherface
while swinging the chainsaw and her head.
Right, while watching Leatherface swinging Melody's head and the chainsaw, and Lila is just standing up through the sunroof laughing, I'm sorry, not laughing. She's laughing. She's just crying hysterically, and it was a homage to the original, the same way that the beginning there was a homage with the narration and with the posing of corpses later in the film. This is a homage to the end of the film because at the end of the original 1974 film, we have Sally in the back of the truck crying and laughing hysterically, and Leatherface outside swinging the chainsaw. And in this one, we have Lila in a Tesla car standing through a sunroof, screaming, watching her sister being beheaded as Leatherface swings the head and his chainsaw as she, I'm assuming, doesn't crash and just drives, the car just drives her to safety, and the movie ends.
I think if she wanted, she probably could have cut the programming.
So are those cars is it because my whole thought was I was like, is this car gonna crash and then he's gonna get her too? So you think the car just literally drove her to wherever it was going?
Yeah, it was on autopilot.
Okay, see, I don't know how those cars work. I'm an idiot, so sorry. I'm not. I don't keep up with that shit. I'm not a car guy. But so she gets the safety, but it's just done in a modern way. Think of that. Back in the 70s, it was you jump in the back of a pickup truck, and this one you're standing in your Tesla car through the sunroof. It's just totally different. The homage was there. The brutal, gritty, the good guys didn't win ending was there. Leatherface, I feel like I feel like it was the opposite of the first one. Sally got away, and Leatherface was kind of left hanging. I feel in this one, someone got away, but I feel like he won. I feel like Leatherface won this time. So let's get into our dislikes before we rate it. I have my rating ready. I've had it for a while. So
yeah, I was gonna say the good is I liked the kills. I thought Leatherface looked good. Like I said, I liked what he did with the chainsaw in terms of some new stuff we haven't seen. I thought the first I don't know exactly where it is because we didn't check, but I'd say it's probably about the first 45 minutes up until right after the bus scene. I loved everything about the movie, and then the last, I guess it probably wasn't even 45 minutes because I don't even think it's an hour and a half. Yeah, it's an hour 23, but the rest of that had some ups and downs. My dislikes, definitely the Sally scene was. The Sally scene, I don't know if that's worse than the doctor scene from Halloween 2018.
I would say it is.
I'd have to say. I wouldn't put it up there with Halloween 2018, but also it wasn't like it had a big budget behind it. There was just some questions about like we were saying, like with the Sally stuff and some other some other choices with the movie. The new characters, I think I didn't dislike them because I feel like they were supposed to be dislikable.
Yeah.
There's nothing like ultimately really that bad that I dislike about it, but it's nothing spectacular.
Fair enough. I definitely would put this. I definitely think Scream 2022 and Halloween 2018 are better. This definitely ranks third amongst the requels. Absolutely, in my opinion.
What about the other requel that was straight to video? If you want to compare it with Leprechaun Returns,
No, I'd still. Leprechaun Returns would probably.
I would probably go
That's
Leprechaun Returns.
yeah over this. Yeah, not over.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was just saying comparing it to the other one, it went straight to
Okay. Yeah,
video.
I would. Yeah, yeah. I think I would agree with that. I think I would put Leprechaun over Texas Chainsaw Massacre here. But just out of sheer like difference and change and fun. But so yeah, my likes basically. I agree with everything you said. Leatherface looked great. I liked that we got to see a new side of Leatherface. That he was a little more limber. That he was a little harder. That
And
he didn't
a
seem
little
as
smarter.
yeah. I would say he didn't seem
Like
as
like when he saw, was it Melody on the stairs, and instead
yeah.
of attacking her, he just fucking chucked.
Chuck the chain, the sledgehammer, little
Yeah,
hammer, yeah. But yeah, he definitely seemed smarter, and he had more of anger to him than the original. He almost kind of comes off like a victim, like he's like very like soft and like easily intimidated and bullied, and this one he was very hard. So whatever happened to him over the years hardened him. I liked Leatherface. I thought Mark Burnham did a good job. The rest of the cast did a good job, as John said. The uh, the gore was great. The kills were great. The music was good. Um, there wasn't really too much to dislike about it besides the basic common like it's just such a new movie. There's just so many like things about it that are just like the way people act and talk. It's just it's not me. I don't hang out with those types of people, so those types of people are annoying to me. But that's not a fault of the movie.
gentrifuckers. I like that name from Richter.
Right. Um, I thought it was great to see Alice Cridge back to play Mrs. MC. She's a great actress. She's been in a ton of things, and she's always she's always a presence. She definitely always has a presence on screen, and yeah, I guess my dislikes about the movie is that I will say this. Hold on, before I get into my dislikes, I will say this that up until the 40-minute mark, the 45-minute mark, or whatever the bus scene was, like John said, I think I lost it a little before John. I'll give it. He said after the bus scene. I was like midway through the bus scene. I think I gave up on it. Like I not gave up, but I started to lose hope. Midway through the bus scene, things started to shift. The way the bus scene started going wasn't as pleasing as the way it started. Um, and although I did think that up until that point the movie was solid and I was enjoying it, I will say that at that point it was solid and I enjoyed it, but I also knew that it definitely wasn't better than the 2003 remake. The 2003 remake to me is the best in the series besides the original, and honest to God, I know a lot of you will hate me and a lot of you will agree with me because I've talked with some of you online. The 2003 remake is better. I'll say it. I don't give a shit. It's fucking better. It was what the movie should have been if they had the budget that they should have had in the original. And that takes nothing away from the original. It's amazing. There's nothing wrong with improving upon it. The 2003 film took it to another level, and it was gritty. That's why it worked. They didn't polish it. And this movie is polished. And that's why I'm going to get into my dislikes. This movie is polished. It doesn't have that gritty grindhouse feel. It has that Hollywood feel, especially with the actors and the dialogue. It also doesn't take place in the 70s though, so I mean you got to take that into consideration. But in general, I thought that it was predictable. There was poor acting, some poor acting. It was way too polished and not gritty enough. It did not have that grindhouse feel. It didn't feel just dirty enough. Sally's redemption, like you said, I mean I don't really need to say anything about that. But my last complaint was we had mentioned our boy Richter, played by Mo Dunford. My biggest complaint of the entire film, even over you know what? It's not over Sally. It's not over Sally. It's not the biggest complaint over Sally. It's after Sally. Sally's the biggest complaint. Her gunshot wound from the garbage bags is just unredeemable. But after that, it's Leatherface is on a bus full of people. I mean, there was a lot of people. He goes into the VIP lounge of this bus, and there is a lot.
There's
I mean,
at least 20 people.
I was going to say 30. Yeah, 20, 30
20,
people.
30.
And not a single one of them fought back. Nobody jumped on his back. Nobody tried to kick him in the nuts. Nobody tried to pull his mask off or gouge his eyes. Nobody tried to wrestle the chainsaw from him. Nobody. Everybody just ran like little bitches and beat on the bus windows while he cut them up and ran from him. That to me was completely unrealistic. If you're going to bring it into now, you need to bring it into now. And bring it into now, you have to understand that there are hard motherfuckers out there. That's how the world is right now. If you had a bus full of tourist people and somebody comes to you with a chainsaw, people are going to stand the fuck up and they're going to fight back. Honestly, some of them probably would have had fucking guns on them. And at this point, it's like Leatherface just really bullies all these fucking people. It was just a way for Leatherface to swing his dick, and figuratively speaking, and it was a fun scene. But at the end of the day, nobody fought back, and it's just absolutely ridiculous that the only person that fought back was Mo Dunford. One person out of everybody actually fought back until Sally and the two sisters fight back at the end. And I mean, it's just too many people just let Leatherface walk right through them. So that, to me, that hurts. It just wasn't realistic. If you go back to the original or you go back to the 2003 remake, Leatherface got fucked up in those movies. You know, so it's like my rating, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
I was going to say, I don't necessarily have as much of a problem with the bus scene. I could see people just being stuck in the moment that it's a guy with a chainsaw, not thinking they have numbers, and just, it's a bunch of like early 20s and like teens that are there. So I could see that happening.
It went on for a long time, though. It wasn't just like a minute. Like, they had chances to run past him and shit. You don't think?
I mean, that's a bus, so it's kind of hard to get past him.
I don't know, man. People were dancing and shit.
Slice and dice.
People were dancing and shit.
I was going to say, before I give my rating, on Rotten Tomatoes, it had a 32. It says the consensus is that Texas Chainsaw Massacre doesn't skimp on gore, but Leatherface may have irreparably lost his ability to terrify. I don't know about that. I feel like there was some suspenseful moments in it. Up until what we can say before the bus scene, whatever, I was going to say it was going to be about an 8. Like, I thought they were doing a really good job.
I had that in my notes. I had an 8 in my notes, bro. I had an 8 in my notes.
I'd give it maybe like a 6.6, 6.7. I'll go 6.7.
Okay, so I'm
because that first 45 minutes is really good, but the end of it does hurt the film.
So this is the first episode, I believe, where I am giving a movie a lower rating than John.
Yeah,
this is the first time. Usually, we're either on point or John's being the more critical.
We're still in the same ballpark, but
you're almost a point over. You're a 6.7. Yeah. I mean, that's still. I mean, that's decent. I mean, I definitely don't think it's a 7. So I think anything under a 7 is acceptable. I think honestly, I think anything under a 5 is a little harsh. I think that's a little harsh, but I think anything over a 7's a little like you're overzealous.
But I can see why it has the low scores because of the ending, and I feel like that hurts it for a lot of people.
Like after the bus scene, you mean? Yeah.
I feel like to give a similar movie that I feel like I might feel that way about recently was the Pet Sematary remake. I really liked this, like the atmosphere that from the beginning of the movie, and then they just fucked it up.
I agree. I was so disappointed with that remake, man. Like, I really dug how
I don't want to go down that road.
I really dug how when he was combing her hair and like it got caught on the stitches like of the staples, that were in her scalp from the autopsy. I thought that was I thought that it was good, and then it just ended, and I ended up saying it was one of my like least favorite remakes.
Yeah, like the atmosphere in the beginning was really well done, and I was like, oh, this might be good, and then they killed her instead of Gage, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know. That's where but I would back to Texas Chainsaw, I would say that I would give my ranking of the films. I don't really like, honestly, I don't like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I don't like 3. 4 was terrible, The Next Generation.
Nicole, that's the one she's seen.
The Next Generation? Does she like it?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. But I don't like Leatherface. I don't like Texas Chainsaw 3D. I don't like the majority of these movies. I don't. That's just the truth of it. So my rating, and the only ones in the series that I think that I would watch, like, again, and my rating of them would be the remake, the original, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, the prequel to the remake, and then I would say this one. That would be so the remake, the original, the prequel to the remake, and this one. That's my 4. It makes the top 4. I'd watch it again. I can't say that about the others, so I mean, take it with a grain of salt.
Full disclosure, I'm not a huge Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan. I enjoy the first one. I don't think I hold it as in high regard as somebody like Joe Bob as one of the greatest like horror films ever made. I don't feel that way about it.
I agree.
And I only own the original. Actually, I think I might own the prequel because Nicole just gave it to me. But the only one I've bought is the original, and I feel like that's the only one I need.
Well, I mean, yeah, I would agree with that. I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to add to what you were saying. I had an argument with somebody online who told me that the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was the most cruel movie ever made. That it was harsh and cruel. And
well, that's just categorically
bullshit.
wrong.
That's my first thought. And the dude was older too. He was in his 40s, and he was like a know-it-all horror fucking dipshit. And I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, you obviously are stuck in the 70s and have not updated with the times, because the Texas Chainsaw. Well, the first time I saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I was disappointed because I had seen so much other hardcore shit before I saw it that I was like, that's it. That's what it was scary. That's why it was violent.
I feel like
and
maybe if
notorious.
I would have grew up on it the way I did Halloween, maybe I would like it more.
Yeah, same.
So I can admit, like, yeah, I saw it later when I was like a teen, and I was like, oh, this isn't as brutal as people make it out to be. But yeah, like I said, the only one I need to own is the original. I went and saw it a couple years ago in theaters. That was pretty cool. But yeah, so I'll give it a 6.7, and you're at a 6.
I'm at a 6.
Thanks to the horror hounds and smokers out there for tuning in. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at High on Horror 420. Let us know what you think of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 9. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. And we'll be back with you in 2 weeks. Follow us everywhere online, and you can find out what our next episode will be on. Check out our website, highonhorror.com, and sign up for our newsletter and get the latest episodes and guest announcements sent to your inbox. And I guess that'll about wrap her up. Catch you later.
Bye, everybody.